Good evening, Facebook family. This is Lady Polite. I know y'all haven't heard any good nuggets from me lately. As I said, since the time that I went on Christmas vacation. However, there was much that God was revealing to me, and a lot of it was personal, and I thank God that I passed the test. And I say the test because we have to come to a point of realizing that there is a difference between temptation and the test. How can we identify the difference between temptation and the test? Because sometimes we loosely use that verse, God tested us, you know. And one way you can determine the difference between the temptation when you're being tempted and the test, number one, temptation is basically comes about because there is something within you that the enemy knows that is within you. And I'm going to use the word enemy right now, so stay with me for a moment. Temptation is when there is something within you and the enemy knows that it's in you, and you don't really know that it's in you. You know how we say, oh, I would never do this, oh, I would never do that. But inside, you know, it is there, so you will get tempted. And so temptation reveals what's really on the inside that's coming out. I'm gonna give a good example. There was something in my life, I'm not gonna be detailed about it, but there was something in my life when I was in my 20s that I said I would never do, and due to circumstances I did that thing. Now again, if it was a test, I would not have bowed down to that sin if it was a test, because as we all know, when God put you through a test, he already knows that you're going to come out victorious. So that's one of the difference right there. When we say that God put us to a test, it's because he is already, bravo, I know I can do it because I know that she's going to come out of it. I know that he's going to come out of it. And a good example is Job, when he was bragging so much on Job to the enemy, saying no matter what you do, he's not going to convert. He's not going to deny me. That's the difference between a test and temptation. We have to get that very clear. If God is putting you through a test, or God is allowing something to happen in your life, and we saying it is a test, then when it happens and we come out of it, we are not going to do anything contrary to the word of God. We're not going to do anything that's going to go against serving our God or who God said that he is. So again, a temptation is a desire that you had in you, and sometimes we don't even know that desire was there, but because when it happens, although we may not have liked it in the beginning, we liked it afterwards, and then we choose to continue with that temptation that overtook us. I'm gonna give it a kind of a simple example. Some of us don't like, I'm gonna say like a certain fruit. So like for me, I don't like mushrooms. I never liked mushrooms. Don't like mushrooms. But one day, you know, I was tempted to you know, I was tempted to like a mushroom, okay? I mean, I was tempted to eat a mushroom. And because of how this mushroom was made, I like that mushroom, okay? So that's just kind of a mild example, because I don't want to get too personal, too detailed with it. But we have to look at it that way, because if it, again, it's, and I guess with the mushroom, although I said I didn't like it, there was always a desire within me. It's the best way I can put it. There was always a desire within me to want to try a mushroom, but I just never liked it, you know. But one day I did try it and I liked it. So again, I made a choice and I liked it. So I'm trying to be very discreet with how I'm saying this, because I don't want to offend certain people who may be hearing this. But the reason why I'm finally coming out with it was because during the vacation time, I was tested, and I was tested in an area of my life whereas God had me at a lot of hurt and pain that I went through with some of my family last year. The Lord had me to turn around and to bless them. And that was a very difficult thing for me to do, but I always know when God is talking to me. So, you know, I did what God had me to do, and out of me doing that, the Lord started to reveal some things to me. And we as parents, we have to think about what I'm about to say. I passed this test in the area whereas as parents, you know, we want our kids to learn, but they don't necessarily have to learn the way that we learned. We want them to be strong, have a backbone, make difficult choices, get their hands dirty, because what we had to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But what the Lord was revealing to me was something that was very simple. Anytime a generation went from one thing to the other, he didn't make the next generation go through the same thing. Once a generation came out of something, he didn't put the next generation through the next test. He didn't. I'm gonna give another example. I'm trying to put it another way. When I was raised, I lived in the city, I lived in the ghetto, I lived in the projects, I became an adult, I made my mistakes, so I had to make hard decisions in order to build myself up. Now I have children, and yes, they are living their life and they may have made their mistakes, but my mind was, let them learn like I've learned. And God said, not so. To a certain extent I did, but then he said, not so. And so he had me to bless them, because the Lord said to me, why would you want them to go through the same thing that you went through when I already blessed you out of that? So now be a blessing to them so that they don't go through what you're going through. Or because if you do, that same generational situation is going to happen. So it made sense to me. It was very hard for me to do what I had to do, but I understood it. And so I'm sharing that because that was a test for me. It came at a crucial time when I just got over being hurt and wounded. And then here it is, God says, now I need you to bless them. And boy, did he tell me I need to bless them. And so the area that I had to bless them in was an area to where it would get them from a point A in their life to the point B in their life, and whereas they wouldn't make the same decisions that I made and have to repeat the same course or the same life to a certain extent that I had to do in my life. So, you know, I think as parents we have to come to a point that yes, we know the word says spare the rod, you spoil the child. Understand that. But if you did what you had to do, and yet your child is still, now I won't say the word still, but the child is going through some things, don't be surprised if God tells you, nevertheless, bless them. Because we as parents have to understand, even though we are of an older age right now, God is still overlooking our faults. God is still overlooking our weaknesses. God is still lifting us up. He is still strengthening us. So I believe that the key thing to that whole scenario I went through during the Thanksgiving and New Year's time was that, which is basically a theme now of our ministry this year, is to love. And sometimes, you know, we know that we do love, but the question is, are you loving the way that you was loved? Are you loving the way that you receive love, or are you loving the way God wants you to love someone? And there's a season where God's going to tell you, you know, when to do this, when to do that. But the bottom line is, I guess, if I wanted to just wrap this up, is even as parents, we shouldn't come to a point to where we feel that our children should go through the same exact thing that we went through when we made our mistakes, especially if God has blessed you to be able to bless them so that they do not go through what you went through. That's what breaks generational curses. So I think Jesus, I felt that right there. I think with all I said, that end statement is what the Lord wanted me to say to those who may be listening, those who may hear this at a later time. Again, the bottom line is, Just because you went through a certain way as a child, when you have your children, it does not mean that your children should go through the same way that you did, even though they may be making the same decisions. If God is blessing you, it's your position to bless them so that they will be able to come out of the storm and to be able to be built up. Hey, Danny, how you doing? And to be able to get to the next point in their lives. So again, our website is up, www.tolikm.com. And February is our marriage, relationship, and love talk show. We do that every quarter, February, May, August, and November. So I hope to see y'all soon. Thank you to all the Facebook family, those who I see who are on right now. Hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm driving. I'm on my way home. I'm at a red light right now, so I can look into the camera and say hello. But that's all I had to share. It took me a while to get this out because it was something that God had to show me, and I'm glad that He did. Dad, I'm going to be calling you because we got to put somebody in prayer. But with that being said, I just want to say love you, Facebook family. Love you, WPGR audience, and our marriage, relationship, and love. Talk to you soon. Have a good evening.